Hey everybody, this is the Innovation Conversation. Tom, how you doing?
Morning, Kevin. I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Doing just fine. I just wish it would. I wish it would get out of the teens in terms of
It does look cold.
I know this has become a common theme. I'm just whining about the cold, but I'm getting old. I'm just done. So I really thought it would be a good thing this week to talk about how companies, competitors, investors, for that matter, should be thinking about Amazon in view of the numbers that came out last week. I mean, they've vastly surpassed what people thought they were going to do. They profit almost doubled to $14.3 billion. So when you, just in a broad sense, when you look at the numbers, what do you see?
Well, I mean, it's a 27-year-old company now, right? And its revenue was still up almost 22% year over year. So, I mean, just to think of that level of growth, for a company that is this size,
right,
is amazing. And yeah, the retail business, it's started to slow down a little bit. Like the retail business was only up about 13% year over year. But how many retailers would die for 13%
they kill for 13%.
year over year growth, right?
Right.
But it is down. So yeah, retail is flattening. But
at some point, at some level, isn't some of that because they had such growth during the pandemic? Like everybody else, they're seeing it come back to earth a little bit.
Well, comps have certainly been tougher the last couple of years, but still pretty impressive.
Right.
But I just think law of large numbers, like you're going to see that, it'll not impossible for retail revenue to reaccelerate, particularly as store strategies and whatnot start kicking in, and you start seeing a lot more stores and a lot more formats out there, and a lot more kind of touch points to the customer. Those are the things that Amazon's certainly betting on, for retail sales to accelerate. And probably if you start thinking about pharmacy and some of the other big markets that they're just barely, tapping into. There's definitely a lot of room for retail to still grow. But even at 12 or 13% year over year, even if they could maintain that, they'd be doing pretty well.
What if I was unable, in looking at the numbers, to see a direct reference to the percentage of retail sales that are in the marketplace, third-party sales, as opposed to their own? Could you see that anywhere in there?
You can extrapolate. You can, if you look deep enough at the earnings, you can extrapolate where it's going, and it's. I'm trying to remember where it is. I mean, it's over 50%. And it's been going up about a point or two per quarter. That'll probably start to flatten a little bit, I would think. But with all this new capacity in their network, maybe not, because we see in our businesses too, like Amazon's opening up a lot of capacity for third-party sellers, to put inventory into their facilities. And that was the Amazon space constraint over 2021 was a real issue for the retail and the third-party sellers. Like they just couldn't fit everything in their facilities they wanted to. So that's going to relieve in 22 and should actually provide an overall tailwind for both businesses. So I think, yeah, you'll probably continue to see that shift. Maybe not a couple points per quarter, but you will see it continue to rise.
Yeah, and I would imagine, I mean, supply chain situation has to loosen up, and we're already starting to see a lot of that pressure sort of lessen.
Yeah, if you're in the Amazon ecosystem, there were two supply chain issues that got you. One was around kind of just sourcing, your own ability as a manufacturer to get the materials, to have the labor, to build your product, and then to ship it to Amazon. Right, so that was a constraint, of course, and I think we're starting to see some relief there. Although I think some experts have said mid-year that could still come true, to be better by mid-year. The other big issue though was just Amazon capacity. Like from when 2020 hit and all that demand in the Amazon platform was revving up. And Amazon's flywheel was, in full effect, right? Where it's engaging customers, marketing to them, right? Like, just that whole thing was picking up. Customers wanted to buy more from Amazon than Amazon could service.
Mhm.
And so it was all Amazon could do to add, 100 million square feet over 18 months, I think something like 57 billion they invested in, bringing these new facilities online. That's going to yield benefit in 22, that the Amazon platform will be able, to generate, and the network will be able to service the demand from customers, which, that could help retail sales accelerate, with a nice tailwind in 22.
Yeah.
Although they're not, if you look at their guidance, they're certainly not banking on they're not projecting a bunch of that, but
Yeah.
it is some potential upside out
There is sort of the sense, I think, that, and I've always written on Morning Newsbeat that, the difference between Walmart and Amazon is Walmart just wants to sell you more stuff, and Amazon wants to be sort of inextricably linked to every part of your life. And I think in my sense of it is that we're even seeing more of that, right? That it's that retail does seem to be, less important than some of the other things that Amazon has traditionally done. And I suppose as pharmacy, as whatever it does in the healthcare field, all that kind of stuff, it will become even less. I mean, it will diminish even more going forward. I mean, the fact that, and I know it's not apples to apples, but its investment in Rivian, right, was what they made $12 billion on it. And then, well, their profit was $14 billion. So
Yeah.
know that there's a chunk right there.
Yeah, no, that was a big, that's why the earnings were kind of so far above estimates. But even without that, I think they would have been a couple of bucks. I think they were estimating consensus was like 360 or 357. They came in at 580 per share, which, a $3,000 share price is a measly return, of course, but it's positive.
Right.
And, Amazon is absolutely in an investment phase now. They've been in investment phases for most of their 27 years. Right. But they do pull out of these or slow down these investments periodically, and you start to see the profitability go up, and that's what's so enticing to investors in the market as they see the power of that model. But yeah, so 2021 was the first fiscal year where for the entire year their service revenue was more than their retail revenue, right? So revenue from everything other than than retail sales and third-party sales, right? It was larger for everything else. So when you think of Prime memberships, you think of their media their media properties. Of course, you think of AWS, advertising revenue, right? All of those for the year totaled more than the retail revenue. Which now when you're a retailer and you have to compete with Amazon, and you've got this competitor that is able to fund their own aggressive presence in retail, it's tough. They're able to operate a retail business at break even, and then you can work on getting their profit from these service areas.
Yeah, and I mean, profits were always greater from services than from retail.
Profits were always greater, absolutely.
Now the retail. And I suppose that, that all makes sense unless, of course, the government steps in and breaks them up. But that's, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were having a conversation around the dinner table the other night, because my wife was outraged by the fact that they raised their Amazon Prime membership from 119 to 139. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why you're doing that, especially at a time when your profit is going up. And we're having this long discussion about it. And one of the things that my daughter said was, is it possible just if you wanted to just get delivery, Prime delivery, right, 2-day delivery, and not have access to all the other stuff, which is mostly like video, Thursday Night Football, all that kind of stuff, can you do that? And not that she or I, my daughter and I would say, no, we want the video, right? Because we use it all the time. My wife doesn't use it as much as she thinks, well, we could just get rid of that. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting. I didn't even know this until I checked. In fact, you can get Prime Video without delivery. You can't get delivery without Prime Video. And I was fascinated to see, I know the numbers are not, there are a lot of explanations for this.
Right.
You wanted to do just Prime Video, it would cost you $9 a month, which works out to $108 a year, right? Well, Prime, the total in Prime is now $139. But if you look at it that way, they're pricing basically delivery at $31 a year. Now, I know that's not,
No,
they
right.
don't want you to do that because their value is to get
Well,
you.
they want you to opt in when they see that difference. They want you to opt into the whole deal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the deal.
But I do guess
Yeah.
at some level, they're thinking to themselves, I mean, so they would never separate it out so you could just get delivery without video, I suppose.
I mean, they could, but I would think it would be, it would be like 99 or 119 for just delivery. I mean, the idea is, right, they want to load so much stuff in there, right, that, you feel irresponsible for not being a member, right?
But well, let me ask you this. Do you think, I mean, clearly it seems that they're making a bet that by raising their Prime membership from 119 to 139, which is like a 17-18% increase, that they're not going to lose so many customers that it becomes a negative.
Right.
And I still think, I mean, if you use it as much as I use it, and I suspect you use it, it's a value. I mean, I said to my wife and daughter, I said, we make up that $31 in, or whatever,
Oh, and it's for a household
in like
too.
3 weeks.
Right. And it's for a household. It's not
Right.
just for an individual.
Right.
It's for your entire household. So, I mean, it's a good deal. This is the third increase, right? So Prime started at $79, the Prime number.
Right.
And it went up by 20 to 99, then 20 to 119. So, in the 17 years of the program, 17 years of the program, that's not too bad. And the idea is you keep getting faster and faster and faster delivery. And, they've added a ton of markets in the US where you get, kind of free next day. And in many markets, you even get free same day.
Right.
So, they strive to continue to add value for that. And, it's I don't know. I get raising the price. It'll be interesting. I know in the last increases, they did not experience significant losses of customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting timing. It is a time of inflation, right? So everything's getting more expensive. I don't know if that means it gets buried in the increases that we're seeing for everything from meat and chicken to produce or whatever, or does it stick out more because it's wait a minute, that's one more thing. It is, I mean,
Right.
Again, I suppose if the goal is to make Prime so great that you feel irresponsible not having it, then it becomes not a nice to have, but it does become a need to have. I mean, that's their goal. And in so many ways, while traditional retailers would approach the problem differently, shouldn't that be the goal of everybody who's trying to compete with Amazon, to come at the problem differently, but also position yourself as being, no, I'm not a retailer from which you can turn away easily, because
Right.
I am critical to how you live your life, certainly in terms of how you feed your family and think about food and nutrition and things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, the equation for, any retailer is to, understand your customer, understand their most important needs that you can uniquely and or best solve.
Right.
And that's where you focus, the tip of your spear, the tip of your strategy.
Right.
And, maybe that involves, it probably involves some type of omni-channel, where you're connecting digitally and physically. Some combination of virtual, digital, and physical experiences. And you may have a membership cost there. I have read stories, and you hear that people are getting a little bit of kind of fatigue for all these subscription services that they have, right? I have a Netflix subscription, I have a Spotify subscription, I've got HBO Max, I've got Amazon Prime, kind of a lot of that happening out there.
Yeah.
So you want to be a little bit careful, but any of those things, if you can really attach a value to that, right? Like, we have a great delivery service, and for $10 a month, you get unlimited delivery. That could be really, really compelling.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a standard playbook, out there that says, here's how you should compete against Amazon, or here's how you should, the elements of programs you should deliver. But just there's nothing better than understanding your customer.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I was going to say,
figuring out and forging that relationship.
All the things you just talked about, and there's going to be elements of all those things, but there's almost certainly got to be an element of accumulating and then acting on data, right?
Absolutely.
In other words, if you're not accumulating actionable data and then actually acting on it, then you're going into the game with one hand tied behind your back, maybe two hands.
Absolutely. I mean, data and using it well enables you to personalize your service and personalize your relationship with customers at scale. It doesn't get any better than that. Obviously you got to be responsible. Customers can't feel that they've been exploited, that their data has been misused, right? Customers have to feel very comfortable that they're getting value for sharing that, and you're not, you're using it for their benefit. Yeah. And if you can do that, it's a pretty good equation. Yeah.
I do want to read you as we close. I wanted to read you very briefly an opinion column that ran in Politico. And to me, it was just so interesting in terms of the metaphor that they draw. So it starts like this. The New York Times would like you to stop thinking of it primarily as a venue for news. Oh, it still wants you to subscribe for the latest intrigue from Washington, coverage of hurricanes, opinion columns, and all the rest. But the new business model is more Amazon than Dowdy newspaper. The modern Times company wants to be your everything store. Not just for news, but for entertainment, consumer advice, and general mental recreation. You want news. Of course, the Times still has news, but you want games? The Times offers the best daily crossword puzzle in the nation. Not to mention its wildly popular spelling bee, and now this year's game sensation Wordle, which is just bought. Do you cook? The Times is serving and has lots of recipes. For sports nuts, it just bought The Athletic. Need to know what's the best thermostat, the best KN95 mask, or the best sports bra? Its Wirecutter site has the answers. And I thought it was so interesting to me that becomes the model. It becomes, but again, the model that serves what they're able to determine very easily based on what you click through on what their customers want.
Yeah, man, that sounds pretty good to me.
Right?
Because I think it just becomes so, set and accustomed to what you think of as the New York Times, and it's good reporting. Yeah. And it's but to think about that range of value and service. Yeah. And what would the subscription for all that cost per month?
Oh, it's not that bad. I mean, it's like it works. I have to be honest, they charge it directly to my card. So, because I've had an annual.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's
right. So I don't even know. I just say I don't even know what it is. So now
it's like $15 a month kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, we still get a physical subscription. We still get the actual paper because my wife likes to read the actual paper. I only read it online. So but it is interesting. And it's also fascinating just tangentially. So Jeff Bezos buys the Washington Post and invested a lot of money in its news operation, right? A lot, and has really upgraded its news operation and its website and all that stuff. Yep. But the Washington Post isn't trying to become Amazon because it really can't. Right. And Amazon doesn't own the Washington Post. So it's interesting, they're fascinating if you had to think about two of the 3 or 4 biggest, best newspapers in the country, right? I mean, it's the Wall Street Journal, it's the New York Times, the Washington Post. 2 of them have an Amazon connection, if not, one philosophically, one sort of economically. Right. And it's just an interesting, I had not thought of what the New York Times is doing as sort of mimicking at some level what Amazon is doing, which is become inextricably linked to your life as opposed to giving you.
I think that's really fantastic. And if you have the right platform that it sits across, which I'm sure they do, and you can understand how your users are using it. Yeah. I mean, a user like me, they would say, hey, we have all these other things you're not taking advantage of, right? And they would, tease me with those, and I would be lured into them, and and then I'd be using it more, and then I'm more valuable to them because my eyeballs are cruising around. I'm clicking around that site a lot more. You get a lot more advertising revenue on me, and I'm okay with that because I'm getting value.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating stuff.
Yeah, anyway, really cool.
Yeah. So anyway, well, listen. As always, thanks so much for doing this. I will see you in 2 weeks.
We'll be here. Look
Sounds
forward to
good.
it as always.
Take care. See you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.